Hi, my name is Leah Porter. I am a member of the O'Bannon family. My Uncle Frank was my mother's brother, and Robert P. O'Bannon was my grandfather. So I have political connections going back, to Lou M. O'Bannon, who ran for office in Indiana in about 1910, I believe, something like that. But I'm here with Frank. No mask, he's unaffected. So we're distancing, and I feel like it wasn't necessary for this video in this case. He doesn't care. My connection to Frank was as an uncle who would show up at Christmas and all the holidays at my grandparents' house, which led into cocktails and entertainment in the evening with my mother, who would argue constantly philosophical, political questions with Frank. He was not your typical politician. In fact, I don't even want to use the word politician. Frank and my grandfather were lawmakers. They were able to pass laws, get them out of committee, work across the aisle. I think those are the two things that Frank and my grandfather would say are the most important today: local politics and working across the aisle. Now, local, I feel in good shape here. I think we have basically a nonpartisan council and commissioners. Both parties seem to work together the best they can. These are everyday people who are doing a job that's very difficult. But Frank would say, and I know Frank's wife, Judy, would say, because she's talked to me about it, we need to get involved. More people in Harrison County need to be involved in local politics. They would absolutely recommend that everyone make a contribution in some way. I think current times have made us aware that we haven't been doing that, and we need to step up our game. As far as working across the aisle, my grandfather was head of finance in the budget committee in Indiana for 12 years. And that was a powerful position for a Democrat in Indiana, even then. So he was able to bring Republicans home with him. I remember as a little child, Frank would be there, my grandfather would be there, and there'd be Republicans from the county there. And they would sit around and discuss policy in a very civil manner. I don't see that now. It's sad, but it's the way it is. I think we have reasons for that Frank and my grandfather would say have to do with campaign finance reform. It's hard to work across the aisle when you're beholden to interests outside your local area. I think that's one thing they would really look at. And I know Judy, who was a big part of Frank's whole career, would agree with that. She would say we need to, A, get involved locally and look at campaign finance reform for everyone. I think we'd all be better. You can't really compromise when you know you have an oil interest somewhere in Louisiana that you have to honor. I don't see that locally particularly, but I do see it on the national level. And I think they'd be arguing over that right now, in spite of everything going on. The other issue that I want to discuss with Frank and my great-grandfather and my grandfather was their wives. This memorial, hi, how's it going? This memorial is unfinished, actually. That stone right there is supposed to have a tribute to the wives and women, Judy, my grandmother Faith, who were part of Frank and Robert P. O'Bannon's careers. I remember as a little child, again, going to Indianapolis and staying at a pretty fancy place called the Athletic Club for what it was then. And my grandmother was the center of attention with these wives of politicians. I think that counts for a lot that we don't really pay attention to. Judy wanted a women's tribute literature holder there on top of that stone, which did not happen. and it would have discussed Faith O'Bannon, Judy O'Bannon, and maybe even my great-grandmother, who I know not too much about. But I think that should be done. I think that's an issue that we need to look at. Other than that, education was the big thing. And last night, in prepping for this little talk, I looked up a film of my grandfather on YouTube talking about Ball State, the importance of education in the state of Indiana, the importance of education locally. Frank saw thousands and thousands of fourth graders in his office in Indianapolis over and over and over, and he talked about education being a priority in the state of Indiana. We have a lot of room to grow there. We need to pay our teachers more. We need to be rewarding the good teachers. We need to make sure kids are prepped for learning every day with a good breakfast food, whatever it takes, and then graduate them out there with a real education. I know that they were absolutely dedicated to that. And I watched my grandfather last night and couldn't believe how he was talking about Ball State. So that was interesting. Enjoyed that aspect of what they would do. Other than that, Frank was personally a funny guy. And he kept his friendships with Corydon and Harrison County always. And my grandfather was always local in what he wrote and did. We would travel with them, my sister and I, in the back seat of their car to Williamsburg. And every time we stopped for gas, he got out, pulled out his notebook, and we knew it'd be a half an hour before we ever got out of there. He would find a connection with the guy pumping the gas to Harrison County and Corydon if he worked hard enough at it. And then he would write it all for by the way column in the Democrat. That was an indication to me about how important locality was for him, his voters, his constituents. And even as a little kid, I realized, wow, everything's local. As Obama said, change begins on the local level. We have to remember that. So in closing up, I'd say Frank and my ancestors here would say campaign finance reform, education, keep your center, your locality, your voters, your constituents uppermost in your mind, and work from that. And I know Judy agrees with that, and I think my grandmother did too. And I've enjoyed talking about them. Thanks for asking me. Appreciate it.
Good evening, everyone. I'm James Goldman, the candidate for County Commissioner in District 1. I have served on numerous boards throughout my lifetime. I've spent at least 24 years serving on boards. I've served on Lifespan Resources Board. It's the board in New Albany, which helps elderly people and people in need of services to live a productive life at home instead of being institutionalized. And so with that said, I am running for commissioner, and my reason for doing so is having watched the actions of the boards in the past few years. I've noticed that there seems to be a disconnect as they go about their business. They don't seem to mesh and work together as a board. They seem to be at odds with one another quite a bit. And I feel like I could bring a sense of calm to that. Working on numerous boards as I have, I know that you have to listen to the other person's perspective, and you have to listen and be appreciative of what they have to say, and also treat them with respect. I think that's important. The problem with a board not working together and being disconnected is that ends up being a disconnect to the people they serve. And they cannot effectively serve the county if they aren't working together as one. And so that was my main reason for running. And I believe I will be a compliment to the board. I've served in the past, that I've mentioned before, and I care deeply about our county. I would like to see more long-range planning done as far as expenditures of our budget in the council. And it is a two-way street. The commissioners and the council both have to work together to accomplish that. I I guess that's about all I have to say. I appreciate all you listening to me this evening, and I appreciate your vote. Thank you very much.
As candidate for Commissioner District 2 here in Harrison County, I wanted to share with you a little bit about my history. I was born here in the county. I was raised on a farm in Frenchtown, Indiana. I'm proud of my heritage, and I learned a lot about commitment, relationships, and trust on that farm. One of the poems that we recited as children goes like this. It says, "Once a job is first begun, never leave it till it's done. Be the labor great or small, do it well or not at all." I'm going to want you to know I intend to bring that same attitude into the job as commissioner. And one of the things that I know for a fact is that without trust, any relationship is going to suffer. It's one of the reasons I'm running is for the last 4 years I have watched the deterioration of the council and the commissioner's relationship. It cannot be good for our county. Also, I have seen the landowners' rights of notification just be ignored and not respected. It's going to be hard for you as landowners or as residents to have trust in your government. I intend to restore that trust by acting with respect and treating everyone with dignity, but I can't do it alone. Representative government cannot exist without your consent. So I need your support. I want your support, and I want to earn your trust. Thank you.